Welcome back, friends. This is 2025. So, very, very happy new year to you all from Jayant and myself. And Jayant, we would love to tell our viewers and listeners happy new year from your side.
Of course. Happy New Year, everyone, and Happy New Year to you too, Leslie.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a techie new year with a lot of news on AI agentic systems, and whatnot. But
New models.
absolutely. And so, in this episode, what we are going to speak about is, of course, the Consumer Electronics Show, which is a kind of, it's called the CES now. We no longer refer to as the Consumer Electronics Show for the simple reason that everything that is consumer has now become enterprise, and what was enterprise is now consumer. So there's a lot of synergy between all these gadgets. Like, for instance, somebody was asking me, okay, can you give me an example? I said, look at your smartphone. It's an AI smartphone. It's the BYOD, the bring your own device. So you have it in your thing. And who else would know it better than Jayant with having worked with Motorola and all these things? But so CS, since CS is the flavor of the day, we will talk about Jensen Huang. Of course, we'll talk about Satya Nadella, who was in India last 2 3 days. He's been making news, and of course Sam Altman, as usual. I don't think there's any week that we have not been able to talk about OpenAI. And then, of course, Jayant and I will be discussing some tech trends that we see happening this year, or rather taking off this year. I'm not too sure of the maturity levels because many of them actually are work in progress, the way we see them.
Yes.
Let's start with what Jensen Huang has said. So, of course, at the CES, the keynote was pretty interesting because he gave a blueprint for AI agents. It was
Right.
a 90-minute kind of keynote, Jayant.
Yeah.
Very interesting. I'm sure you must have watched it yourself.
Yes.
And, but it was interesting that the very following day, the stock price dipped 6%. And that marked the biggest single day fall in 4 months because, for the past 12 months, I mean, our viewers and listeners would know that the stock had been consistently rising and it's above a 3 trillion. It's the second largest company by market cap. But this actually indicated, that Huang's announcements fell short of delivering the near-term growth that catalysts that the investors had, at least some investors had anticipated.
Yeah.
Interesting among what the take homes from the speech that I had was AI and GeForce, because you were talking about the marrying or the melding of artificial intelligence and GeForce, which is, of course, one of the gaming GPUs of NVIDIA. Then, of course, he spoke about Cosmos, which is a platform designed to advance physical AI by integrating generative models and video pipelines.
Right.
He described it, Jen, very interestingly as the chat GPT moment for robotics.
For robotics. Yes.
Pretty interesting.
Yes.
Then, of course, I think Project Digits was another one that caught the attention of everybody.
Yeah.
That's a compact kind of, AI
Mac
supercomputer.
Mini. It looks like a AI version of Mac Mini.
Yeah, and it's like a $3,000 device, small enough to fit on a desk. It provides developers with the full NVIDIA AI stack, and allows them to build and deploy advanced AI models locally. I think that's expected to be launched in May, if I'm not mistaken, and it is
Correct.
powered by the Blackwell chip.
Yeah.
So
Their AI chip series Blackwell. And for me, Digits of all the announcements, Digits is the most exciting and compelling one. A single Digits, AI supercomputer. Now, first of all, AI supercomputers are now becoming personal computers, right? I mean, computers which can handle 200 billion parameter LLMs, are now becoming. They can sit on your desk. So you don't have to go to cloud to access LLMs. Okay. And what this means is companies, startups can actually plan better and reduce their cloud costs and reduce their cloud dependencies if they build their solutions, generative AI solutions on open source models. Okay. A $3,000 device, right? It's a capex investment. A $3,000 device, buy a couple of them, then your entire companies, you can rig up two of them to work on a 405 billion parameter LLMs, I think the latest O3 is or
Yeah,
O3 or one of the latest OpenAI models. I think 4.0 is a 300 billion parameter model, right?
I think it's 4.
Yeah, it's 4.0. 4.0 is a 300 billion parameter model, right? Imagine one of the updated LLM model from OpenAI itself is smaller than what two of these digits put together can do. So this I feel it's exciting because if the startups and the enterprises can work or think about their architecture intelligently, by spending $6,000, they can actually bring down a lot of as capex one-time cost. They can actually bring down a lot of their cloud OpEx costs. So that for me is exciting.
Very interesting that you said that, because I didn't look at it from that point of view, because I was more excited about the AI agentic blueprint initiative.
Yeah.
Of course,
And
because
and have you observed that the example is given for that blueprint is actually making a podcast?
yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it can transform your PDFs into podcasts,
into
manage
podcasts.
video
Yeah.
efficiently,
I
and
was I was I was thinking about the same thing. I mean, we are starting our first episode of the third season of this podcast, and Jensen Huang comes and says, "You know what, guys? You can rig up your own podcast. You don't need Leslie and Jen."
sign of the times, I guess. And then,
Right.
of course, there's Hyperion, which is the integrates advanced systems for safe and intelligent driving, and using synthetic data generated by NVIDIA Omniverse.
Mm,
So pretty interesting. So lots of, I mean, as you said, the pace of innovation in AI, robotics, and AVs will be extraordinary. So
right.
that I found pretty interesting. And, if you remember, I think he made another statement which was very interesting. I'll just quote him verbatim. He said, the IT department of every company is going to be the HR
HR
department of
department.
AI agents in the future,
Correct.
which basically means that he's talking about onboarding, these IT agents. So
Right.
I was just wondering about two or three things. A couple of things that struck me. One is, what happens to the role of the HR itself?
Yeah.
you know, HR folks will not like it because they have been heavy users of analytics, etc.
True.
But
True.
if at the IT department parallelly starts onboarding employees, virtual employees, and you have a tiff between. So think about these things. You have to start thinking about a compensation package. How
Yeah.
do you plan career growth for employees?
Yeah.
There are
So
10,000 other problems that are there.
yeah. So okay. It's very interesting you bring that point up. Let's open it up and unpack it a little, right? Let's look at a decent sized company's HR and various tasks that they would do right from even before recruiting. They would actually identify potential candidates out there. Then they would conduct interviews, recruit. I mean JDs, setting up JDs and the pay packages and getting the approvals from the right managers and the departments, all that. That's one aspect of HR, right? Recruitment. And then the big, work of HR is actually to set the policies, procedures, and culture of the company and ensuring that, those are followed. And then HR, what nobody understands or appreciates, a big part of HR's job is that they are, whether they like it or not, the police of all things in the company, not
Yeah,
just
yeah,
culture,
absolutely.
right? Okay, so they are the sort of eh, not, I won't say a fallback on, but sort of a complaint department for employees, on any and all kinds of complaints, right? So that is
Yeah, and
that is a
and
big
the CHROs typically are on the boards of the companies, of big
exactly,
companies. So
exactly,
definitely
exactly,
they have a very big role to play. But
right.
I'm just saying, look at
and
it.
and the fourth thing is the career progression, charting out the career paths of individual employees and teams, and in a very relative manner, mind you. uh, at a very high level, four buckets. I don't know if I'm forgetting anything, but if you look at it for each of these tasks and each of these functions and subtasks and jobs in that, there have been, technology platforms that have been coming in, right from, profiling engines, which are looking at, sifting through the resumes that the HR has been getting. So HR tech or HR automation in a way sort of automates recruitment in terms of, the profiling engines going through the resumes and identifying who to be shortlisted to be, to be interviewed for. Then interviews have become, digitized, mind you, and we've discussed this in our previous episodes, how first few levels of, especially after Gen AI has come, Gen AI avatars have been taking interviews, in the companies, the first
Yeah,
couple of
but
levels.
Jen, this is exactly the point that I'm saying, because it's not about them using platforms. What you pointed out is that tech, as I said, we started this conversation also that they have been heavy users of tech and analytics.
Right.
What Jensen Huang is saying is that the IT department will, in parallel, start onboarding virtual employees. I'm just saying, look at the irony.
Ah,
See,
yeah.
it at this point in time, it may sound an exaggeration,
Right.
but consider two other developments. Nadella speaking about AI agentic systems and saying that
Correct.
Gemini 2.0 is the advent of the agentic kind of era, and
Right.
then better still, Sam Altman topping it all, saying that AGI is as usual. His usual is now AGI is
What
coming.
what
You know,
what's this week's his definition of AGI? I mean, I think
Yeah,
now the
I've given
definition
up on
changes.
that particular thing.
Yeah.
I only am reminded of this thing that the sky is falling, the chicken comes running, and the sky is falling. You say, yeah, at
Right.
some point in time, the sky will fall on our heads. That's if we have our heads around it.
On a prolonged enough life timeline, it will happen, right? So, if you keep saying
Yeah,
if you keep saying it's coming, eventually at some point you'll be right.
no, but what I think the more profound one, which is a made statement, which I think which that I would always say is good, is that AI agents will come in this year. My point is they're already
Definitely.
there, but
Definitely.
what he said that the maturity level of AI agentic systems that will happen this year. So I'm taking all these kind of conversations and you consider them in parallel, and you realize that okay, fine, AI agentic systems are here to stay. What it does to the HR department is not in isolation.
Right.
It will be extremely disruptive to the entire workforce.
Yeah.
Now, for instance, you know this better than me on software engineering, coding, for instance. However much you comfort engineers or that coding level, uh, AI is doing as good a job as any human as far as coding is concerned. Okay, today.
Absolutely. I mean, we
Now,
have numbers,
human
right?
level coding, if they actually achieve it, which they've already achieved in some way, just think about it at the basic level, at the recruiting level, what happens to that entire workforce, and
Yeah.
how much of that workforce can you actually reskill and upskill?
Right.
So these are
Right.
questions that we will have to answer this year because
Oh,
they're going to gain
definitely.
a lot of traction.
Definitely. This year is going to be the year of AI agents. Okay.
It's going to be the
And
year of AI agents.
year of
Absolutely.
AI agents. And if you take a step back and look at, from the view of what's going to happen in terms of developments in AI, they're going to be, I think, two extremely fast and parallel developments. One completely on the applications and solutions of AI. And I would put AI agents in that, bucket. Uh, on the AI technology and the models and the Gen AI LLMs that have already been released there. So the way to productize all the models that have been released out there, there's a huge opportunity. So that's going to happen. And the second is the evolution of the models themselves, right? From generating and creating to to evolving into reasoning and reasoning models and having perception. So that evolution itself and a whole lot of innovation there. Using less number of tokens. What O3 right now uses huge amount of tokens. So lessening of computing resources, lessening of uh, power requirements on the entire, let's call it AI infrastructure, right? AI software infrastructure. So huge amount of innovation and evolution there. So I think if you look at it from an AI point of view, there are going to be in parallel, but in two different directions, a huge amount of innovation and growth and evolution happening.
Yeah, no, I'm
This
glad
change.
you said that because as we discussed when we started this episode also, we were talking about, that we are going to discuss the kind of 5 AI trends to keep a watch on. Now, the
Right.
point is you can have 15 or you could have 25 or you could have even 30. I have for the sake of this a story that I was doing, I whittled it down to 5.
Okay.
And my wish list, I'll tell you,
Yes.
I love you to react to that.
Sure.
So my first is smarter AI models will intensify AGI fears.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
so
Okay.
because we are talking about AGI, now the point is as these AI models get smarter and more intelligent, you know, invariably human nature is such that we are going
I
to
agree.
think that when is it going to
I agree.
overtake
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
outsmart the human race, if I were to
Correct.
put it
Correct.
very mildly.
Correct. I mean,
I will expand on this.
it's human nature to fear the unknown, and if AI is coming for the jobs, we don't know where to go next, and the fear would creep in. So I completely agree.
Absolutely. So that's
Yeah.
my first one. I'll expand on that a
Expand.
little later.
Sure.
Second one, of course, is what we just discussed in detail. AI agentic systems
Agents.
will abound
Sure.
because we have already seen like AI agents, like even AlphaFold and all that kind of stuff, doing great stuff. So yeah, there's going to be a broader adoption, and which is clearly backed by what Sam Altman said, what Jensen Huang said, and what Satya Nadella spoke about.
Right.
My third is a slightly different, that India will back its AI ambitions with robust AI infrastructure because
Define
we are
infrastructure.
already.
In
So
this
the
context, define infrastructure in the context of India and AI.
Absolutely. So one, of course, we are talking about the 4 semiconductor projects. Okay, we are talking about the India AI mission. We are talking about the even the quantum mission to some extent, but not so much the. I'm just taking the India AI mission, the semiconductor, the whole development of all the Deshi LLMs, the localized
Okay.
LLMs
Okay.
that we have,
Okay.
and of course, the data program like Bhashini, etc., that we
Uh,
have. So the whole data programs, and very importantly, AI laws. We don't have AI laws as such, but we have the DPDP Act,
yeah.
the rules that have come
Yeah.
into play.
Yeah.
They need to be ironed out. They are open. They have been opened up to the public now for discourse out there. But yes, we finally got it. And to the last one is on the data centers, which we have spoken about.
Mm,
We
mm,
already have
mm,
150 data centers. There's a lot of expansion.
mm,
We need many more data centers in the
mm.
country. So that's good because India accounts currently only for 3% of the global data center
Yeah.
capacity.
So good. So in your definition, infrastructure in AI in India is semiconductors and chipsets, data centers, LLMs, laws, regulations. Okay, and the fifth one you mentioned.
The DPDP acts the rules
Yeah,
basically.
yeah, the
And
regulations.
that
Yeah,
comes with the
so
regulation and
everything,
the policy.
everything. I think you in your, so you're using infrastructure as an umbrella term, but you're capturing
Absolutely.
hardware and even to the chip level, semiconductor level, and
Yeah, because
software infrastructure as well,
yeah,
and
because we
data.
have
Sorry,
to
so the fifth one you talked about was the data availability, the
the
Indian
data
data.
availability, the
Yeah,
Bashni projects, and
yeah, yeah.
everything is
So
coming under the umbrella
five.
of the India data mission kind of
Fine.
stuff.
I agree. I
Yeah.
think I agree with you that India, AI infrastructure will
Yeah.
in different under these five. I think they all will have different pace of evolution,
Correct.
but they will advance.
Then the fourth trend that I am seeing is that we will see more humanoid robots.
Mm.
Now,
Okay.
yeah, because we actually have, I was
Yeah.
just because I had done a story some time back. So we already have Anushka by Krishna Institute of Engineering and Technology. Then uh, this company called Adverb has come up with another humanoid.
Mm.
Mitra and Mitri, by a US-based company, but it's an Indian company. They focus on healthcare and senior stuff. We have also had failed robots, like some of them have not really picked up. We had Anushka. I mean, Anushka is the recent one from the engineering college, but we had Mano, we had Shalu, we had HDFC ERA, if you remember.
Right.
We had an airport assistant robot called Rada, but
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I think it was Air India or something, I forget. And yeah, and then India's contributions to the humanoid sector, if you remember, with the space mission that will come up this year,
Yes.
will have Vyomitra.
Yes.
So
Yes,
it's a humanoid astronaut being launched into space.
correct.
So pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And Ahmedabad-based Kodi Technolab, they have a humanoid called Skanda.
Mm-hmm.
And Reliance-backed Adverb has another, a humanoid. Of course, the whole idea in this particular case is to, use them for what Adverb calls the 3D, dull, dirty, and dangerous jobs. So
Right.
pretty interesting. Globally, of course, we have enough cases because Samsung Electronics
Yeah.
has ramped up its investment in Rainbow Robotics.
Yes.
That's a South Korean robotics company. OpenAI is talking about humanoid robots. Okay, and NVIDIA obviously has spoken about the platforms that is
Yes.
there. And I think it's tending to becoming a robot as a service.
Right.
And
Right.
then, of course, China leads in the robot installations.
Yes.
India, I was looking at, I was, in fact, actually, I had a very interesting chat before this conversation with the global head of ABB. So they're a hardcore robotics and automation company, but they're more
Mm.
for industrial automation. So I was
Right.
asking him about humanoids. He gave me a very interesting answer. He's saying, see, look at our legs.
Huh.
Okay, he was saying in the personal capacity, he's saying because ABB does not deal with humanoids. They
Right.
had Yumi and they had another one called Frida, but they were not humanoids in the strictest sense.
Right.
So because ABB hardcore is a industrial automation, industrial robotics stuff, so collaborative robots and those kind of. So he said, look at our legs.
Mm-hmm.
Our legs are weak, therefore we create those kind of machines with
Yeah.
wheels.
Wheels. Yeah.
So if
Right.
you're trying to create them legs, it is fine in a certain context for jumping and all those kind of things. But in the for the warehouse, you'll be better off with wheels.
Yeah. Yeah.
So pretty interesting. So that's my fourth
Fourth one.
wish. Fifth one, I think you'll agree with very much, is that AI cyber attacks will continue
Oh
to
yes.
rattle India
Yeah. Yeah.
because this is getting on
I
everybody's
agree.
nerves.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I think cyber attacks, automated and AI driven cyber attacks and in multiple ways. I think it's getting on everybody's nerves, both at the institutional level and at the individual level. And there doesn't go a single day where we don't read someone or the other in different parts of the country, well-educated people, falling scam for some of these some of these scams, and to the level that now Airtel hasn't automated this one. Every time you do an outgoing call, it gives you a warning not to fall for some of these scams. But they're so convincing, and say they're so deeper, and because of all these digital breadcrumbs that we leave out there, okay, then they right off the cuff they know so much about us that
Oh,
it's difficult. I mean, the social engineering. We did a episode on last season and on cybersecurity and AI. And the global cybersecurity experts still said that AI is still a tool. I mean, the fundamental cyber hack tools and methodologies still remain social engineering. Okay, but AI is a very powerful tool for that basic social engineering methodology and approach of cyber hacking, right? And some of these scams. So I think I agree with you. I mean, AI could be a very
yeah, in fact,
powerful
actually,
tool.
interestingly, just last year in December, I did another piece, which was the five technologies that did not pick as much pace, which are
Yeah,
like work in progress. And again, I mentioned Gen AI.
yeah.
So ironically, because the point is that time we were questioning, the whole question
ROI,
was around ROI.
ROI. I
So,
remember.
and
I
it has to
remember.
pick up pace, because the kind of, and many of the projects are still in the pilot stages.
Yes,
So,
absolutely. Yeah.
the
So
full scale production is not happening. Then
correct,
metaverse, it was the second one. And
correct.
third was the Web3.
Yeah, yeah.
Then fourth, which I took was the pick was on the smart cities. Because the smart
Right,
cities, my
right.
point is
Yeah.
like,
Smart cities has been for many, many years now a promise that has been underdelivered.
yeah,
Yeah,
and see, my point, Jayant, at any given, I mean, my major argument with that smart cities program is that I still don't have clean air. I still
mm,
don't have water from the tap. Okay.
mm.
I still have to, you're
consumable
forcing me to
water,
buy packaged water and
potable
then
water.
trying to
Yeah.
put a kind of a warning on packaged water also. So now I don't know what water to drink at this point in time. But yes,
As
yeah,
we speak,
exactly.
as we
Yeah.
speak. Yeah.
So you don't have clean air, you don't have clean water, you have traffic to contend with, okay? Because people,
Don't
one
get me
is, of
started on
course, our
that.
traffic is bad, and then people lack civic sense. That's another issue. So just think about it. It's like not only a double, triple whammy, it's so many whammies
Yeah,
together.
I swear. I
So
swear.
yes, citizen services are happening. That's a good thing. There
Correct.
are certain things about the smart city initiative that is good, but I think priorities, we should get our priorities right, and
Yeah,
having, clean air, water from the tap, hopefully at some point in time, which we remember we used to drink at one point in
exactly.
time.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not a far-fetched idea.
Yeah.
And then, of course, some footpaths to walk on, for heaven's sake. And we should, cities should not burst at their seams.
True.
But
True.
that would
I
be a smart city.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
would be a smart
Yeah,
city.
which would tell you, okay, at
I
this
mean,
hour
yeah,
you don't go, you
I,
don't
I I need
tailgate.
to do a deeper research, but I remember reading it a few years back. I think during its golden age, of development, China in its major cities like Shanghai, uh, had a sort of an equivalent to a visa program for people to come in, other from other parts of China itself. Okay, some kind of a permit, some equivalent to some kind of a visa program, so that the cities don't burst at their seams. Okay, I need to corroborate that, but I remember reading this somewhere in terms of during the growth phases of some of these countries, right? China then was the most populated country in the world. India now is. Okay, the development of different cities and towns, and different regions happens at different paces. Okay, during that pace, how do we ensure that the ones that are developing faster and earlier don't burst at their seams, infrastructure wise, right? So probably that could be one of the solution, but
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
remember
But
reading
for
somewhere.
that, I think we need to get a transport expert or some
We
urban
need to
planning
get,
expert and,
we need to get
planning expert,
bureaucrats,
basically.
planning experts.
And of course,
But
the
let me get back to the five wishes and the five trends that you
yes,
observed.
that's what I wanted.
Yeah, I think I agree with most of them, and at each one of them, I think I delved then and there a little deeper, except for probably the fourth one, which is humanoids and robots. Okay,
Yeah,
I no, here's my thing. I don't contend with the innovation and innovation pace of Indian companies around humanoids and robots. I think I would contend with the large scale deployment of them, especially in India market, because this is a country where you have an automated parking ticket generator in malls, and there's someone standing there and pressing the button and giving it to you. Okay, the country has a huge unemployment, this one, especially at a blue collar level, right? I
yeah.
mean,
But at automated parking malls, the reason you find people, because half of the time the machines are not working.
no, not really,
Yeah,
Leslie. Come
I
on,
have
man.
seen it. You see it at all the automated you go through
No,
these electronic toll gates.
I'm just giving you that as an example, but
No, you're
I think
absolutely right. I
I
subscribe to that point.
yeah, I think the Indian humanoid and robotic companies will develop and invent and innovate a lot, but they will find India is a great test bed and a rugged development environment. But I think business wise, they would be looking outside of India for deployment. Okay, for most of the use cases that you explained, that you mentioned, except for probably senior care, because India is again one country where senior care,
Yeah, we
especially
may go
in
the
urban
Japan,
India,
we may go the Japan way.
yeah, we may go the Japan way, especially in urban India. We see a lot of seniors, aged people living here, and their kids living outside of the country, or definitely in other cities, not in the same city. Okay, there I would probably see this taking off, because having a full-time nurse at home is a common thing in urban India these days,
And it's
right?
expensive also.
It is expensive. It is expensive, and then again, people have a lot of trust issues as well, right?
Mm.
Okay, so yeah.
Any other trend you want to add before we wind up?
I would like to add one trend that I'm observing, or I would like to sort of look into the crystal ball. And the VC industry, especially around AI, okay, I think it's this year and next year, both 2025 and 2026, would sort of become a cottage industry, only because the kind of investments that would be required to do anything, in AI and AI-based products and platforms. For example, a $25 million investment in any tech startup earlier used to be a good seed or a Series A investment. Right now, it's like, giving a startup a crore. I mean, it's neither here nor there, especially when they're working on cloud and, AI and everything, right? So the VC industry needs to relook at its model, and I think they're doing that already. And this year and next year, I see the industry sort of shrinking and becoming sort of a cottage industry focused model before coming out with its renewed this one in a year and a half or two. So that is something, because the investments that are going into AI are again huge, and they are in the P range, right? Private
So,
equity range.
Jayant, I think I fully subscribe to this point of view because the cost of computation for these newer
Exactly.
models has gone
Exactly.
up exponentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially for the O3 model, I was looking at
Right.
the pricing. I mean,
Exactly.
if you really want that cutting edge thing to
Right.
differentiate your
Right.
product, you're going to have
And
a big problem.
And remember, a few episodes back in the second this one, we were talking about the
Things
exponential
going
downfall
down.
of the computing cost. But then, the next model comes up, the reasoning model comes up, which talks about multiple tokens and increasing the computational cost. And we have Sam Altman coming and saying, who's, by the way, increased the subscription cost to $200. And he's saying that we are unable to sustain it because the people who are paying $200 are actually, using it so much. The usage of GPT paid versions is so high that it's not actually, even the $200 that people are paying, it's not sustainable business model for them, right?
So, it's
So
so funny if somebody is using ChatGPT and
yeah,
gets used to ChatGPT,
exactly.
it rewires the brain. So when people started, like for instance, if you remember that very famous example of those who were drivers of black cabs
Right,
in London,
right,
they knew every nook and corner. They did
right,
not require GPS. Their
exactly,
brains got rewired after a
exactly,
period of time because you had GPS. So why would you want to remember? Now
right,
suddenly you find the cost of, like say, if tomorrow Google starts charging for its maps and says you cannot use it unless you pay me X amount for the subscription. Many
right.
people may say, okay, fine, it's not sustainable or it's not economical. You start dropping it. Your brains cannot remember where to go.
Correct, correct.
So
And,
this,
and you're absolutely right. People are using ChatGPT for everything, like how they used to use Google search okay, for different use cases. I mean, just to check if there is, any decent research available, synthesized research available out there as well. I mean, something as simple as that.
yeah, so
Uh,
you'll forget your basic skills,
correct,
if you're a good
correct.
writer and if you're using ChatGPT and if you make ChatGPT write for you,
Yeah.
um, I mean, I do not know what the outcome of it
Articulation
is.
skills, lateral
Yeah,
thinking. I mean, I used to take an entire day to put together a 500 word analyst note, man. Okay.
yeah. Yes. I think our producer is saying that ChatGPT helped me to cure my acne.
Yeah,
Now
why
see,
not? Now,
why not? So
yeah,
you just think of
OpenAI needs to find a way to monetize that.
no,
That's a
no,
service.
absolutely. I mean, but then also remember Tesla. I think they used ChatGPT, and now the point is, that somebody was saying, thankfully they used ChatGPT because they could not make too much progress with it. Maybe the prompt was not good enough, or ChatGPT couldn't translate it into a proper one.
Right.
But thankfully, the Tesla explosion was contained. So yeah. So friends, we've had a very AI powered new year. Lots of
Yeah.
announcements at the CES 2025, and of course, a lot of noise around the world. Uh,
And just before Christmas, I mean, we've
just
never
before
had
Christmas.
a December
Never.
with so full of announcements in the tech
I've
world.
never seen a
Tech
tech
world.
week.
Yeah.
The tech, all big tech companies used to go to sleep.
Yeah.
Everybody used
And
to
and
enjoy a good
and you've been
holiday.
doing this for 4 decades now, almost.
Seriously,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I suddenly found myself tracking each and every tidbit. Everybody on WhatsApp groups, on the techie groups were complaining that, okay, everybody was
Let us have a
complaining.
peaceful Christmas.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, sometimes you feel like man, these machines don't go to sleep. Let us humans at least, have a nice, peaceful New Year. So the only best way is next Christmas, I'm going off the grid because I know what's going to.
I tried, Leslie. I was deep in the hills and waterfalls of Meghalaya,
Yes, in
but
Meghalaya.
5G was was chasing me everywhere, and I was getting updates on all the
Yeah,
announcements, and
this
I'm
is,
sitting there, sitting there in the pristine world where even
yeah, but
Google Map couldn't look at me.
isn't it
And
ironical that 5G was chasing you in Meghalaya and where you require 5G doesn't work?
yeah, touche,
Yeah,
touche.
absolutely. So I hope the telecom services providers are listening, and we have before talking about 6G, let's get 5G in play. But yes, all said and done, a lot of good things are happening,
Yeah,
folks. Very interesting stuff that is happening in this country and around the world. So stay tuned. A lot of stuff. We are going to get a lot of many experts to speak, to share their insights on this platform. Uh, and we wish you a very happy 2025. It's going to be an AI powered 2025. So
absolutely.
stay tuned.
Absolutely. Yeah. Great speaking with you again, Leslie, and
Lovely,
happy New
lovely
Year
catching up with you.
again, and happy 2025, folks.